I think the smoking ban is completely different from this. I mean, it's one thing to just ban smoking because in certain areas because smoking affects the people who surround you. You're making people unhealthy when you smoke because they have to inhale the smoke from your cigarette. That's not the same with sugary drinks.
If you sit next to someone who is
Yeah, if you're
really
sitting
fat,
next-
then that's secondhand fat.
Yeah, I'm not gonna gain weight because I'm sitting next to someone.
Well, yeah,
who,
but I mean, but you're coming from a place where this is personal to you because you like sugary drinks and you're not overweight.
see, I'm not-
But
it's
this
not-
is like, but I mean, it's not like you can't get 32 ounces of soda under this.
It's not even so
ban.
much though that I'm against the ban. It's more so that I think this is just Bloomberg finding a way to address an issue in a way where he can say, "Oh, look, I tackled that issue," but he doesn't want to get to the real underlying cause of the problem, and that's poor people can't afford healthy food.
Well, in fairness, he did encourage bodegas to have fresh fruit, like the food deserts that exist in New York. That has been a part of his policy. Like, I mean, just in fairness to Bloomberg, because I mean, and also just a disclaimer: for every one thing that Bloomberg does that I like, he does two things that make me crazy.
No, I know, but-
I mean, like,
there's
cut in and say that in fairness to Bloomberg is the first time I've heard that term in the show. That was amazing.
I mean,
Yeah,
like,
that
because
was-
I agree with you. I agree that there's a myriad of issues, but I think this is a great start. I think that like actually going after like empty calories and saying, look, over 16 ounces is ridiculous. Come on, it really is.
Let me
But
get
I mean-
back to the smoking analogy though, because you're off base with that, Matt. Because the
Okay.
smoking no because you're right. In the immediate circumstances, somebody smoking next to you has a much more immediate effect than somebody drinking a soda. Other than drinking a gulp soda is kind of disgusting to watch on the street. In fairness, but in terms of the long-term health consequences that person has and the overall drain on the system, that definitely does affect us.
Right.
So I
Well-
agree with what you're saying more broadly, that obviously there are fundamental issues here that Bloomberg isn't great on. But there's no doubt that other people's dietary habits and what they do with their health has an effect on the overall health system, on spending, on emergency room visits, and on, everything, airplane safety. So
I mean,
that's,
okay,
there's
if-
no doubt. You have to look at it in a more
I mean,
long-term
that's-
way. It was a
with-
very
without a doubt, that's a very
libertarian-ish
good-
point of view, Matt.
I guess that was very. But I mean, you mentioned this island before, and I mean, is there any better model for income inequality other than Manhattan? And Bloomberg just refuses to address that issue. And to me, that is the main issue. I mean, that is why people are unhealthy because they cannot afford other options.
Because they have food insecurity, right? Well, like I said, this is not a cure-all, and I don't think that like it's an either-or type of thing. Like we can't ban sodas over 16 ounces, and then we also can't make sure that people have healthy food.
Oh, no, I'm definitely not-
Like, you know what I mean? I don't think it's an either-or type of thing, but I think that when it comes to public policy and when it comes to like how we want what we want the government to do for us, I think disincentivizing bad behavior that ultimately affects all of us is like I said, harm reduction. I think it's a very reasonable policy. I don't think that anyone is adversely affected. This is what I disagree with, that somehow these small business owners, right now, like get them up on the cross here, that they are somehow, and I also heard this on the news, which made me laugh. It's not only small business owners, it's small business owners and minority business owners. Whoa. That they are going to be adversely affected, that their bottom line is going to be affected by this, and that's what I think is completely wrong and just kind of silly.
My main issue with it is just that I think this is Bloomberg's way of wiping his hands clean and saying, look, my administration did something.
Well, but that's what happens every time a politician does anything. They can
Yeah,
wipe their
yeah.
hands.
That's what
Look,
policy
we did
making
something,
is.
and here I'm standing on my record. Who doesn't say that we did something is Obama, who like actually does stuff and then never brings it up again. And we all are sat there going, well, why are the Republicans able to say that he increased the deficit and like he increased spending when what he did was he put wars on the books? Why doesn't he bring that up?
May I-
It's like he
well-
actually does things and then he just never mentions them again and
I-
and lets his critics kind of shape a narrative. But Bloomberg doesn't do that.
I
Can I
answer
just say
that
that
for
was
you.
an amazing segue into another story? Yes, that was
That was
great.
yeah, it was good. That was a masterful segue.
Good. If I was segueing into something into our next story, that would be masterful. Otherwise, that was a tangent. So that didn't actually.
Tangents and
thank you,
segues.
thank you for giving me credit where credit was not due.
I could seg into. Well, I could. Maybe I should answer you as Obama.
Oh, please do
Just
it.
like,
Because you're off camera, so it might actually really
yeah,
work.
right.
I'll put up on
So you
YouTube later. I'll put up a picture of Obama.
Okay, excellent. Okay, go ahead, Michael.
I think we're choreographing everything. Look, I did do that. That's a fair point. What Tina said with regard to the budget was that, in contrast to previous administrations, we did not put contingency spending overseas on the book. Now, that doesn't mean that I agree with what Mayor Bloomberg's doing, but I'm open to the idea. And that's what we should all be open to, the ideas here in Washington. Look, that's what I came here to do. So I'm going to go take Sasha and Malia to the greengrocer.